I'm Jimmy. Today's day 183 of reading. Today we're reading Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Let's get started. We're on page 320. Harry looked and saw that he was running one broad thumb along the blade of a shining axe. Ron opened his mouth to say something, but Hermione nudged him hard in the ribs and jerked her head behind the entrance hall. "Why'd you stop me?" Ron said angrily as they entered the Great Hall for lunch. "Did you see them? They've even got the axe ready. This isn't justice." "Ron, your dad works for the ministry. You can't go saying things like that to his boss," said Hermione, but she too looked very upset. "As long as Hagrid can keep his head this time, argues his case properly, they can't possibly execute Buckbeak." But Harry could tell Hermione didn't really believe what she was saying. All around them, people were talking excitedly as they ate their lunch, happily anticipating the end of the exams that afternoon. But Harry, Ron, and Hermione, lost in worry about Hagrid and Buckbeak, didn't join in. Harry's and Ron's last exam was divination, Hermione's Muggle studies. They walked up the marble staircase together. Hermione left them on the first floor, and Harry and Ron proceeded all the way up to the 7th, where many of their class were sitting on the spiral staircase to Professor Trelawney's classroom, trying to cram in a bit of last-minute studying. "She's seeing us all separately," Neville informed them as they went to sit down next to him. He had his copy of the Unfogging the Future open on his lap at the pages devoted to crystal gazing. "Have either of you seen anything in the crystal ball?" he asked unhappily. "Nope," said Ron in an offhand voice. He kept checking his watch. Harry knew that he was counting down the time until Buckbeak's appeal started. The line of people outside the classroom shortened very slowly. As each person climbed back down the silver ladder, the rest of the class hissed. "But what did she ask? Was it okay?" But they all refused to say. "She says the crystal balls told her that if I tell you, I'll have a horrible accident," squeaked Neville as he clambered back down the ladder toward Harry and Ron, who had now reached the landing. "That's convenient," snorted Ron. "You know, I'm starting to think Hermione was right about her." He jabbed his thumb toward the trapdoor overhead. "She's a right old fraud." "Yeah," said Harry, looking at his own watch. It was now 2:00. "Wish she'd hurry up." Parvati came back down the ladder glowing with pride. "She says I've got all the makings of a true seer," she informed Harry and Ron. "I saw loads of stuff." "Well, good luck." She hurried off down the spiral staircase toward Lavender. "Ronald Weasley," said the familiar misty voice from over their heads. Ron grimaced at Harry and climbed the silver ladder out of sight. Harry was now the only person left to be tested. He settled himself on the floor with his back against the wall, listening to the fly buzzing in the sunny window. His mind across the grounds was Hagrid. After about 20 minutes, Ron's large feet reappeared on the ladder. "How did it go?" Harry asked him, standing up. "Rubbish," said Ron. "Couldn't see a thing. So I made some stuff up. Don't think she was convinced, though." "Meet you in the common room," Harry muttered as Professor Trelawney's voice called, "Harry Potter!" The tower room was hotter than ever before. The curtains were closed, the fire was alight, and the usually sickly scent made Harry cough as he stumbled through the clutter of chairs and tables to where Professor Trelawney sat waiting for him before a large crystal ball. "Good day, my dear," she said softly. "If you would kindly gaze into the orb, take your time now, then tell me what you see within it." Harry bent over the crystal ball and stared as hard as he could, willing it to show him something other than swirling white fog. But nothing happened. "Well," Professor Trelawney prompted delicately. What do you see? The heat was overpowering, and his nostrils were stinging with the perfumed smoke wafting from the fire beside them. He thought of what Ron just said, and decided to pretend. Said Harry, a dark shape. What does it resemble? Whispered Professor Trelawney. Think, now. Harry cast his mind around, and it landed on Buckbeak. A hippogriff, he said firmly. Indeed, whispered Professor Trelawney, scribbling keenly on the parchment perched upon her knees. My boy, you may well be seeing the outcome of poor Hagrid's trouble with the Ministry of Magic. Look closer. Does the hippogriff appear to have its head? Yes, said Harry firmly. Are you sure? Professor Trelawney urged him. Are you quite sure, dear? You don't see it writhing on the ground, perhaps, and a shadowy figure raising an axe behind it? No, said Harry, starting to feel slightly sick. No blood? No weeping Hagrid? No, said Harry again, wanting more than ever to leave the room in heat. It looks fine. It's flying away. Professor Trelawney sighed. Well, dear, I think we'll leave it there. A little disappointing, but I'm sure you did your best. Relieved, Harry got up, picked up his bag, and turned to go. But then a loud, harsh voice spoke behind him. It will happen tonight. Harry wheeled around. Professor Trelawney had gone rigid in her armchair. Her eyes were unfocused and her mouth sagging. Sorry? Said Harry. But Professor Trelawney didn't seem to hear him. Her eyes started to roll. Harry sat there in a panic. She looked as though she was about to have some sort of seizure. He hesitated, thinking of running to the hospital wing. And then Professor Trelawney spoke again, in the same harsh voice, quite unlike her own. The Dark Lord lies alone and friendless, abandoned by his followers. His servant has been chained these 12 years. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will break free and set out to rejoin his master. The Dark Lord will rise again with his servant's aid, greater and more terrible than ever he was. Tonight, before midnight, the servant will set out to rejoin his master. Professor Trelawney's head fell forward onto her chest. She made a grunting sort of noise. Harry sat there, staring at her. Then, quite suddenly, Professor Trelawney's head snapped up again. I'm so sorry, dear boy, she said dreamily. The heat of the day. I drifted off for a moment. Harry sat there, staring at her. Is there anything wrong, my dear? You just told me that the Dark Lord is going to rise again, that his servants is going to come back to him. Professor Trelawney looked thoroughly startled. The Dark Lord, he who must be not named? My dear boy, that's hardly something to joke about. Rise again, indeed. But you just said it. You said the Dark Lord. I think you must have dozed off too, dear, said Professor Trelawney. I would certainly not presume to predict anything quite as far-fetched as that. Harry climbed back down the ladder and the spiral staircase, wondering, had he just heard Professor Trelawney make a real prediction, or had that just been her idea of an impressive end to the test? 5 minutes later, he was dashing past the security trolls outside the entrance to Governor Tower, Professor Trelawney's words still resounding in his head. People were striding past him in opposite direction, laughing and joking, heading for the grounds and a bit of long-awaited freedom. By the time he had reached the portrait hole and entered the common room, it was almost deserted. Over in a corner, however, sat Ron and Hermione. Professor Trelawney, Harry panted, just told me, but he stopped abruptly at the sight of their faces. Buckbeak lost, said Ron weakly. Hagrid's just said this. Hagrid's note was dry this time. No tears had been splattered it, yet his hand seemed to have shaken so much as he wrote that it was hardly legible. Lost appeal. They're going to execute at sunset. Nothing you can do. Don't come down. I don't want you to see it. Hagrid. We've got to go, said Harry at once. Thank you, everyone. That's a